Hello and welcome to the Empower Couples podcast, where here you get modern, non-boring relationship advice for you and your partner to communicate like pros, fight smarter, and stay on the same team no matter the challenge that you face. I am one of your hosts, Aaron Freeman.
And I'm Jocelyn Freeman, but you all just know us as the Freemans.
And this episode is about how parenthood has affected our marriage and the biggest challenges we see other couples face.
Speaking of challenges, Aaron isn't feeling 100%, as you might hear in his voice, and yet he's here. I just want to
Speaking of challenges,
honor you. Well, what I mean is you don't
funny.
get a day off, right? Even if you're not feeling well, there's no like clocking out of parenthood.
Yeah, so I apologize to everyone. It's just really the voice. If I had some things going on with it past couple of months, German new medicine has been, apparently there's something I haven't been saying, but that would be surprising. But we do want to just have this be a fun episode, holiday season. It's especially important for us as our daughter turned 2, and her birthday is always going to be around Christmas week. It's the 21st. And so we wanted to share for us, because we see many couples, as well as there's lots of studies out there, right, that show that the first 5 years of being parents dramatically decreases the satisfaction in a marriage. And there's a other study that just shows overall that marriage satisfaction declines to be at lowest at 7 years, and then it starts to turn around from there. So probably these two are correlated. You know, you're usually going to have kids within the first 7 years of marriage, but it also shows that if you can stay in it, if you can adopt and implement the skills and tools, that you can obviously be an outlier from the standard, but that if you do get through these seasons and not just suffer through it, but that your satisfaction will really start to go up.
So our intention as we share some personal experiences, as well as going into the common patterns that we see with couples who become parents, is that you feel less like it's personal, and that you can, to Aaron's point, not just survive through those times. And in fact, some couples, it actually is to the detriment and can even be why they part ways, which of course, no one wants their family to break apart, right? And so we want you to feel like you aren't alone. We want you to feel as though you have perspective and tools to focus on so that you can thrive through parenthood, and that as a family, you are rock solid no matter what you experience. So I want to just do, before we go into our personal shares, a quick summary of 2 things. First off, this might sound like you. So you become parents, and because you are not only fatigued, not sleeping as much, especially the newborn days, but then even as they get older, I mean, man, we are chasing after our 2-year-old. You have less opportunities to make deposits to each other's love account. And before having kiddos, you could be like, let's do a weekend getaway. Hey, let's do a nice long weekend together. Oh, let's go on a date night 3 nights a week if we want to. And because that's not available to the majority of us parents, your love accounts quickly get depleted. And when your love accounts get depleted, you're making more remarks to each other, and little things become big things so much faster. And so not only are you not feeling as loved, connected, cared for as a partner, but you reach a boiling point faster. And so those small things become arguments. And now, again, it becomes this vicious cycle because, again, you're already tired. You're already giving and giving and giving. So then to feel as though you're depleting each other more as opposed to filling each other up can feel very discouraging. And then, even though it's not either one of your faults necessarily, but you aren't having your needs met as individuals and then as the needs within the partnership. And so again, it just creates this snowball effect of feeling like, what about us? I know we're caring for this child, and obviously this is a priority, and I don't think that it's about ordering them one above the other. But a lot of couples will feel like, what about us? And again, you want to be filling each other up, not depleting each other further, especially when you're already giving so much to your children, your professional life, and everywhere else.
And would say that in the parenting journey, a lot of expectations change that you would not have been able to foresee. And then if you're not as skilled in communicating these expectations and or new needs as they come up and as you realize them as things you need rather than things that you complain about, let's say, to keep it simple, then that is a huge factor into what turns small things into big things as well.
So, just to top it off, it's very easy to also get overstimulated as parents. And that has you more reactive towards each other. So, lastly, again, and we're going to get into some personal shares in a moment, this term I think will really put it into perspective. So, all those things we just described are creating what's called a negative feedback loop. So if you think about the interactions between you two is almost like playing off of each other. One negative thing turns into a second negative thing from the other person, and it just creates this spiral effect. And you are like, more negativity is becoming more negativity. And it feels as though it's getting worse and worse. Whereas if you realize what's happening and you realize this isn't personal, okay, so many of these challenges are what couples face. What we need to focus on are the tools, the skills, and the resources. We can get into a positive feedback loop. And this is where, by you creating this good momentum, positivity breeds more positivity. So let's say you realize, oh my gosh, okay, we're both tired. We haven't been filling each other's love accounts. We've been making more remarks to each other. And you go, you know what? Let's pause all this. Let's focus on filling our love accounts. Let's focus on loving on each other, on good communication. You create this positive momentum like a train that's getting started. And that positivity will lead to more positivity. So, as you hear the rest of the episode, think about that in your partnership. Going from this negative feedback loop, which is so much easier when you are parents because you're just, again, you're spread thin in a lot of ways, to shifting to a positive feedback loop. Okay. So, I hope that gives you perspective. And let's get into our personal journey here.
So for us, you know, and as we go through, we recognize that there are, a lot of internal factors as well as external factors. And I think, like I said on the podcast a few weeks ago, it really hit me to acknowledge more of the external factors that would be impacting you
Mm-hmm.
rather than me make the assumption that it's because of your personality traits or
Mm-hmm.
characteristics. It's definitely from a psychological perspective something that a lot of people do. And so for us, we wanted to share some of the things that have impacted our personal journey. And I guess the one right off the bat is just personal time,
Mm-hmm.
right? It seems like the obvious one, but when you're actually in it and experiencing it, it really hits you like, well, what about for me?
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's those times to relax or to recharge or to have fun,
Mm-hmm.
I just can't choose to do these things pretty much whenever I want,
Mm-hmm.
which was very much that way before we had Sky. So now, I mean, our life was very scheduled before. We operate on structure, we operate on a calendar. That's what allowed us to also be very good at being parents in
Mm-hmm.
some regard. But then it's this part, well, I just really feel like I need some time for me. Again, whether to relax, recharge, or just have fun. And it's like, well, can't do that today. Can't do that this week. Sky has this. We have these coaching things. We're doing this podcast. We're
Mm-hmm.
making this content. It's like, okay, well, now I'm looking to schedule my own time out about 3 weeks out. That's right.
Well,
So,
and we both feel that, right? Both people in the partnership need to varying degrees some personal time, to fill our cups, whether that is relaxation, self care, or having fun. And when we aren't getting that time and making that time, we can be kind of less able to fill each other up. Like, how do we fill each other up when we aren't full ourselves?
mm.
And so,
And you could say be
mhm,
more irritable, maybe,
true.
if that's the type of word that you resonate with.
And a lot of couples deal with this, but then don't do anything about it. And something that I think we're decent at, but I know we want to get even better at, is knowing this is important for each other and really wanting to make it a schedule. Like, hey, go to that guy's thing. Go do that, please. Like,
Well,
but
actually, let me say something on
mhm,
that because it actually transitions us to the next point, which is managing the routine.
mhm,
But I wanted to say something on that because I think you're really onto something there. For men and women, I have noticed, not just noticed, you've brought to me, hey, my group of friends is having this event. And like, can we schedule so I can do that? And I'm, of course, like, yeah, like, no problem. It seems like you get a lot more of those opportunities, meaning
mm,
it seems like women are much better at creating time for each other, maybe
mhm,
in a social setting, and men just seem to maybe not do as well at that.
Or scheduling things.
Yeah, scheduling things, setting things up. I mean, I tried to set up a thing with a couple of friends of mine, and it didn't turn out.
Mhm.
And that was like my one thing I had. Like that was the one I was banking on.
For the month, or yeah.
Yeah, and I don't have anything on the horizon. Like no one's calling me up, let's say, and oh, we got this guy's thing. Let's do this. And it seems like you've already gotten like 4 or 5 invitations
Mm,
from friends to do things.
mm,
So again, it's something I could drive the boat on, which I guess I could say I tried. But I see that as a big difference. Maybe women just create more opportunities
yeah.
for social interactions, which really leads, I think, to the second point of managing the routine.
Mhm.
Now, this is for us, and some opt out for the routine. I'll say in parenting.
Like, they just want more let's go with the flow.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the idea is, well, we're gonna try not to encroach upon how we've lived our life, like the fun and the personal time and the relaxing. Let's try to hold on to as much of that kind of life as we can by going with the flow. But I've seen that exact a bigger cost later on.
For you mean other couples
For
or
other couples,
us?
yeah. So for
Mhm,
us though, managing the routine, we're very structured people. I
mhm,
mean, really, I would say lucky.
mhm,
Maybe it was the personal development that we both went into and
mhm,
how we kind of stepped into leadership in different ways. We are very similar
mhm,
in that regard, which you might call conscientiousness
mhm.
on the scale of personality traits. And so we are very structured. And again, I said that's benefited us in a big way for sky sleeping, sky napping, partly scheduling time for ourselves, like when we can in between those times.
Us going to
But
bed at the same time and waking up together,
for
that
sure,
too.
for sure.
Mhm.
And on a personal note, I would say it's had me feel very much like every single day is so similar. Like
Groundhog
it,
Day.
I was going to say that, yeah, the Groundhog Day, that it's not that I'm bored, but it plays into a further principle for us of like, of identity shifting,
Mhm.
of kind of accepting and owning a certain season of life. That this is what it is. And, I find myself, yeah, I think I resonate with a little bit less satisfied in areas like social interactions or quote unquote networking. I feel like because of how structured we have had to be, yeah, it does feel like not quite boring, but I'm like, oh man, the same day,
Yeah.
kind of like over and over again. And without thinking of, well, the answer being like, it's all temporary, like
Mhm.
every season is very temporary,
Mhm.
I can get stuck in, oh my gosh, it's like the same day again.
Right. And with that kind of quote unquote Groundhog Day or slight boredom feeling, we can then live on autopilot in a
Hmm.
way. And we aren't kind of creating this environment of fun. And so it's about, okay, with some of this routine, how do we spark an environment of joy and connection? And we went on a trail walk recently and we were just talking, we ask each other often, like, how are you really? What you've been thinking about, or what's been your experience lately? And you were sharing about that, about how you feel as though it's been very routine. And I get it. And I just, reminded him and myself that we are still in those like first couple of years where I think routine is even more crucial. It is, I think, forever as parents, because kids, even teens, thrive off of predictability and structure. But it will, as she gets a little bit older, and we even talked about getting like one of those pull behind trailers, like a mini RV, even though it's like a lot smaller, because I was like, you know what, this summer she's going to be closer to 3. We can start to just do some spontaneous trips up north, or to the beach. And so I think we have to remember as parents what you just said of like, okay, these are seasons, these are stages, and how do we balance being present with what is? And there might be like some things that we're like, oh man, I miss this, or I wish I could do more of this, but knowing this is temporary. And not every season of life is supposed to be the same. Like what we're living right now isn't the same as what it was a few years ago, but I'm glad, because I want in my life journey to experience different stages. It can't all be the same. Then you
Mhm.
wouldn't really get the wisdom. You wouldn't really see the contrast between those different experiences.
I want to go to the next point because I see these are really building on each other,
Mhm.
for me anyway. And so you could say how it is for you. The third point on our personal journey is the clean and organized dimension. Now,
Mhm.
again, this is very similar to, I think, both of our like high conscientiousness. I wouldn't say I'm clean, as much as I am particular about organization, let's
Yeah.
say. So I have never done as many. I'm not saying as a comparison. I don't want anyone listening to think I'm comparing, but for me personally, I've never done so many dishes, picked up every small toy every single day. These cotton balls that she likes to get out, I find everywhere. It's like I pick up, like, I feel like every single dirty sock, diapers that like are left like in her room, dirty clothes, uh, folding this kitchen tower that she stands on right to get
Mhm.
to the counter, or it folds to a table. It's like I don't know how many times a day I fold that thing. To yeah, picking up bears and dolls and food on the counter and putting almost everything that comes out of the fridge stays on the counter. I feel like I am the one that puts it back in, and it's just it really just adds to that managing the routine. I feel like I've never done this so much. Now, other people would probably say, well, our house is so messy
Mhm.
and feels chaotic. Well, like I just can't live that way.
Mhm.
So, to a fault, I am literally organizing and picking up things like more than ever, which kind of adds like the overall routine. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm literally spending so much time
Yeah.
trying to keep an environment in which I feel like I could live
Now,
in.
I want to distinguish something because people could hear that. And number one, by the way, he's not saying more than me,
Hmm.
right? Because
I said that context early on.
I just want to make sure that people aren't listening like, oh, wow, is he saying he does more than Jocelyn? It's like, no, and that's one thing I think we have been very mindful of is we do not do tit for tat. We do not compare.
Mhm.
We do not throw things in each other's face. Well, I just did all those dishes. Like that is not something we do because we know that's only going to pit each other. Like we're going to become enemies in those moments. And we're both doing a lot.
Mhm. And I will say I recognize I do that out of a choice. I
Mm-hmm.
could leave those dishes that way.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't, but I make it that I'm choosing to do this. And then not making it about you
Mm-hmm.
not doing it. It's like I just need it to be this way. So I'm sort of quote unquote choosing to
Mm-hmm.
do it.
Absolutely. And I think, again, when we see other couples who aren't as aligned with each other on the standard, this is something we say in our sessions is, if you two can agree on like what is the standard set for our home environment, what makes us feel a sense of peace, then you don't have to be arguing about household things. Because if you are focusing on things that really are just life management, like that's just being an adult, is agreeing on what's the standard of our environment and our living, then you can actually have your energy channeled towards the things that are meaningful to your partnership. Having a good conversation, even if that's, while you're doing things for the kids, being able to share about your life experiences, being able to connect, laugh together, watch something together, just then it can become more about the experience together as opposed to let's argue about just life management, what should be a standard for your environment.
Yeah, we might get frustrated at the activities, but because it's so agreed upon,
Mm-hmm.
it's never something we have to even communicate about
Yeah.
or get upset about.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I realized that was one for me, so I wanted to introduce for you
Sure.
because I noticed this.
Mhm.
And I mean, not that it's a excuse, but I see that Sky just wants to be around you so much more
Yeah.
currently. So I set you up for this one. You have to feel that the amount that you have to carry and hold Sky, and then like you can't even walk out of the room
Mm-hmm.
often without her saying, "Mommy, mommy, where'd you
Right.
go?"
Yeah, and man, the motherhood journey I feel like could be a whole other episode because there is so much. But I will keep it simple and just say that there definitely has been a journey of surrender and really wanting to just like be of service and like let go of control, really. That I did have complete freedom before. I was able to move about and not have someone like literally need me to live. And so I think there definitely has been a surrender journey, and I just remind myself of that all the time. Like, okay, sure, would I love like a few minutes of just like space to lay down or something? Sure, from time to time I do. And I want to soak up and enjoy these moments. And again, that doesn't mean I don't have moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, she's asking for me again. She's asking for me. But it is really temporary. And I really felt a turning point around 18 months closer to two, where she like goes to you. And actually recently there were times where she was turning me away. Like she was like almost like move mommy and wanted you. And I was like, oh wow, this is a change. And so, yeah, I guess I'll just keep it simple because I think the motherhood journey could be a whole other episode, but it's definitely been about surrender, being of service, realizing it's temporary and soaking up these moments where she does want me. And because when we become parents, we are choosing the path where someone does literally need us, not just for physical survival, but for emotional well being. Like that is what is meant to be. So, I love seeing her want you more, though. That's been so fun to see that father daughter journey blossom as well. Now, I'm sure parents will definitely relate to this one how much having a child, especially as they get to the 2 year old, the toddler stage, is the testing of our emotions. We hear these terms about how we need to emotionally regulate and we need to respond instead of react. And yet, parenting is going to challenge that more than anything. That definitely has also shown up in our partnership because, again, all those, feeling fatigued, lower love account, all the things are definitely playing into your capacity to respond to each other. And so, what we'll notice is that if she is experiencing big emotions, our daughter, okay, we're trying to respond to her. We're trying to regulate our emotions, not get reactive to her. And at the same time, if we are at all making withdrawals from each other, if we're making any remarks to each other, we're in that negative feedback loop cycle, it almost can create this snowball effect of like, oh my gosh, why does everything feel so chaotic right now? Now I'm reacting to her, now I'm reacting to you. So it's definitely been the best development for us to learn and practice emotional regulation. And so that is something we just want to keep reminding parents like that is, I know, challenging, but it is the journey. That's why I feel like parenthood is the best self development. Marriage is definitely, and then parenting on top of it. And so just remember that that isn't personal to you, that with both your partner and your child, it's like, okay, how do I just consciously respond? How can I be supportive in this environment? How do I not let myself get dysregulated? And there are times where we tell each other, hey, I just need a few minutes to myself in the room because we get overstimulated. We are struggling to regulate for whatever reason. Maybe we just really need alone time, but we can't get it. So we, quote unquote, could tap out for a few minutes, right? Just, hey, just need to go chill for a few. Cool, go, come back into the environment. So that emotional regulation is key. Now, we're going to go here in a moment to some of the biggest challenges we see with couples overall. All those factors we just listed, I know a lot of them can seem like just life changes, whether that be about organization, cleanliness, schedule, personal time. But remember that those circumstances can either be things that you kind of deal with as a team or that you let come between you. And remember, it isn't personal. So instead, focus your mindset on okay, how do we address these things? They don't need to have us become enemies. How do we become a team through these circumstances that we are facing? So, we're going to go and summarize here the challenges we see couples. But in case any of you have to hop off, I want to make sure that you hear about our 30-day couples challenge that is starting January 1st. If you have not experienced our challenge, it's just a must, especially starting off the new year on a great note. We've been saying this a lot. Think of it as like a reset for your partnership. To really get that positive feedback loop going. So, you're going to focus on love deposits, conversation starters, and communication tips. For 30 days, you can go ahead and read the testimonials, why men love it, why women love it. So go to mycouplechallenge.com, and that link will also be in the show notes. But that's an incredible way to kick off the year. Now, in outlining some of the biggest challenges we see couples face, we hit on several of them, but I'll just extract them here a little bit in some bullet points. So, we addressed the lack of time and energy. And again, that can have you be more depleted, more reactive to each other, making less deposits. So, the thing is, you might not be able to bank on date nights. You might not be able to say, oh, let's just get a weekend getaway, every other month. That's going to be it. Because that might not be realistic for your life right now. So instead, focus on the small deposits every single day. grazing each other's back as you walk by, pausing for a longer hug, engaging in meaningful conversation, not just life management and this and that. So focus on those daily deposits. Again, that's something we really hit on in the 30-day couples challenge, but that's what's realistic when you're parents, really. So that is time and energy. Next is it's very easy for your communication to become all task based. Hey, do this. Can you do this? Hey, we need more of this. Hey, I'm going to this meeting. Hey, I need to go to the gym. Okay, and now where's the connection? Where is checking in on each other? Remember that you two matter, your partnership matters. And I wrote this down that kids shift your priorities, but that shouldn't make you deprioritize the relationship. So I don't think we can rank them, oh, this is more important than that, because I don't think that's the reality when you become parents. It's all important. You're taking care of your children well and your partnership. Those are foundational to your family unit. So again, kids shift your priorities, but shouldn't make you deprioritize the relationship. So instead of just focusing on task based communication, make sure you're checking in on each other. Make sure you're sharing needs, communicating more proactively about feelings and needs, not just to dos. The other factor is that you can be so much more reactive. We addressed this already, but it's worth noting again that it's so easy to just say out loud, well, oh, you're just going to leave that here. Oh, you're just going to leave that there. But remember that behind those remarks, those little complaints, is something deep down that you need. So instead of wanting kind of that passive aggressive communication to do the talking for you, be direct with each other in a kind way. Again, that's why we love check-ins, because it's not me just going up to Aaron and blindsiding him of like, I feel like you're not doing this and I need more of this. It's like, hey, let's check in. How are you doing? How am I doing? What do we each need more of? That can be a constructive way to communicate with each other instead of being reactive and making these shorthanded remarks, which are going to feel like further withdrawals from your love accounts and deplete you even further. And then also, it's very easy to lose sight of the bigger picture and that you are in just a season and that it is temporary. And so, like we said, there's several studies that can say about the first 5 years are when there is a big dip of relationship satisfaction. Remember, okay, we want to focus on being a team right now. We want to implement tools, techniques, skills to not have this be something that breaks us down. And so, how do we want to be 20 years from now, 30 years and beyond? We want to be rock solid. We want to be together and happy. Okay, what do we need to do today in order to be strong with our children? And I feel that our children can be the greatest motivation for us to step up. I mean, I don't think I have to even really say it, but I will. Like, our kids are watching. I know Sky is influenced now. Even at 18 months, she was watching. She felt it. She reacted to our emotion. They can feel whether you're connected or not. So you might seem like you're thinking you're getting away with being disconnected after an argument. They're watching. They feel that. They pick up on that, and they're learning how to love from you. So please use that as motivation, okay? And lastly, remember that your needs are going to shift. And instead of taking it personally, or if your partner brings up something that they're not getting or they need more of, instead of it being like, come on, it's never good enough for you, and I'm doing all of this and that, it's important to just be receptive to each other, to communicate very often about needs. I think that couples underestimate how often and how much healthy couples communicate about needs, because your needs, especially in the young years of having children, can shift on a daily basis. One day you might need more support around the house. The next day you might need a little bit of alone time. The next day you might need some quality time with each other. And it's not like the moving target. It's not like, oh, wow, I just never can win with you. But it's more so of like, you're just giving and giving so much to your children that your needs are going to evolve day to day. So checking in on that and making that more of a norm. So we don't want to overwhelm you with too much. So we'll keep it at that because those are some of the big ones. Of course, there are others. Maybe we'll do a follow-up episode on as well. But we hope that you take some of this and really see, number one, that it isn't personal to you. You're not flawed. It's not that there's something wrong with the relationship. There might be just a perspective that you've been missing or a habit. And so implement some of the tools that we focused on today. Remember, you're a team. Remember that wisdom comes from embracing the challenges and overcoming them together. So we hope that this was helpful. Make sure you dive in to our 30-day couples challenge starting here very soon. Go to mycoupleschallenge.com. But we love you guys, and we will talk to you on the next episode.